watch me touch the sky. Delayed landing before I touched down. I never dropped out. I took a break to study my trials and tribulations. Had to sit down and meditate. Had to finish school and graduate. Took a weight off my.
Ella Mai is before I get into this, isn't it weird how people sing American? Like, think about it. Emily Sandé, Adele, I'm forgetting one. Why am I forgetting this one? Leona Lewis. Yeah, Leona Lewis. Isn't it weird how, like, the first time you didn't do your research, you thought, what, they're Americans because their singing voice is kind of American. Like, didn't you guys find that weird? Just me. Okay. Anyway, Ella Mai is back with a 15-track album, finally. 54 minutes, and she calls it Heart on My Sleeve, and you know that it's probably going to talk about love, roller coasters, and heartbreaks and stuff like that. And it's one of the artists that I point to every time someone annoying is like, music used to be great back in the day. They don't make it like that anymore. It's like, are you listening to Division? Are you listening to Party Next Door? Are you listening to Bryson Tiller? Are you listening to Giveon? Like, what is wrong with people? Okay, yeah, let me calm down and compose myself. Anyway, yeah, she's back. Bunch of tracks that she released before would be things like DMFU if you follow her. There's another track called what's the track? There's a track that she dropped in 2020. I don't think anyone really paid attention to it, but there's a bunch. I think Leave You Alone was also one of the tracks that she dropped in the head honchos for this album. But anyway, getting into it, there's a track called Trying, first track. It's a clean intro, beautiful vocals, beautiful vocals. I really love the production. I mean, usually she doesn't miss in terms of like the fundamentals. And then another track is called not Another Love Song. It follows the same uniform as the track before, and don't get me wrong, uniforms look good, so put it on. Next track is called Didn't Say featuring Lado, and I was in love with the chorus. It sounds like, you know, those old R&B songs that always had a rap verse and they were always good, so that it gave me that vibe. The next track is called Break My Heart, and this girl knows how to make a heartbreak song, especially if you're going through a heartbreak. Then it's like, yeah, you will just be sobbing over the tracks that she makes, because there's a track called Easy at her old album, and it was just amazing. Like, even if you're not getting your heart broken, you'll just be crying because that's just how good she is. And the next track is called Fallen Angel, and yeah, it's another love song, and it describes how like some people are sent from heaven, or like they're so good that they shouldn't be on earth, like they're far away from home and stuff like that. But we all know what Fallen Angel is, but this track has nothing to do with that based on what I've heard. At the last moment, Kirk Franklin makes, should I say, a surprise visit, and then yeah, you know, Kirk Franklin is always with a choir where he goes, and yeah, he delivers a verse, let's call it a verse, and like, yeah, the choir is singing, and then that segues into the next track called How featuring Roddy Ricch, and it flew beautifully into this. The only people that can really do this properly is Division and Jaden so far. They make an album sound like it's one track. I don't know how they do it, but like, shout out to the engineers and the producers that are looking for all these sounds and connect them into another track. It's interesting. I don't know how they do it. Yeah, the Roddy Ricch verse was okay on this thing, and then this is like a trademark Ella Mai song, like the snares and the beats that you know. Like, if you know her, you know what I'm talking about. Next track is called Pieces, and yeah, the violin was crazy, man, and there was a heavy bass line like underneath that piano. I think it's one of the tracks that I probably slept on because I thought it was okay, but I'm hoping it's gonna grow on me like the more I listen to the album, not as if I didn't listen to the album 5 times already. But next track, my favorite track on this thing, is called DFMU. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out. I don't want to ruin it for you. Next track is called Hide. It has these amazing keys, and it continues to transform into something that's really, really incredible. It's more on the acoustic side. It never builds up, it just stays. It's really nice. Next track is called Power of a Woman, and the thing that I couldn't stop focusing on is the strings. I want to say it's a Spanish guitar, but it's like, it was really nice strings. A Mess featuring Lucky Day. I'm starting to become the biggest Lucky Day fan that I know. I post about him like all the time. Those who have my close social media, whatever things. But yeah, you haven't heard chemistry like this since Adele and why am I saying Adele? Beyonce and Ed Sheeran did the perfect duet. And you haven't heard people, I don't know, decide they're gonna sing the same lines at the same time for this long in a song in a while. That's how good it is. And yeah, you haven't heard like this type of chemistry in a duet since Manana featuring Rolene or Ed Sheeran featuring Beyonce. Yes, I said those two people, 4 people in the same sentence. Feels like it gave me Kehlani's vibes. Kehlani's track called Too Deep, if you guys listen to Kehlani. Yeah, it was like the more amplified version of it. It sounded cheerful and yeah, properly produced. I think it's one of the first track that sounded like, yay, everything's gonna be okay, I'm not sad anymore, no one is breaking my heart or stabbing me in the back, because that's kind of what the theme of this album is. Kind of, don't crucify me for this. There's another track called Leave You Alone. It's one of the highlights. It's like the start tracks on the album. I just don't see it. Maybe it'll grow on me someday, but yeah. And then Sink or Swim also talks about how you break your heart and then you choose that, are you gonna sink or are you gonna swim? And like the friend leaves a beautiful message at the end, like, hey, everything's gonna be okay, guard your heart, you know, all the stuff that you're supposed to tell someone who's going through a heartbreak. And fading out just like fades out like that, and then that's Ella Mai. It was really beautiful, and I also think she's also kind of suffering from August Alsina Testify syndrome, Bryson Tiller Trap Soul syndrome a bit. I mean, this album is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I sure that first album was fire. And yeah, if this one was the first album, and then I don't know what's the album, is it Trip or Boot Up? I'm really sorry, but I'm bad with names. But yeah, that first album was amazing, and if it was the follow-up, who knows? But I really hope that people receive this album well, because she really put her soul into this, and she took her time also to drop it, because the singles that are from like 2020 but they're here, which tells you what, like, maybe this was the time she felt, okay, I'm ready to drop this, or whatever's going on, this is the time for me to like share. It's like the right, yeah, it's a really great album. You guys should check it out. Peace.
Man, I put my work up in this bitch, I be grinding. Man, I'm from the mob, been digging up and mining. Look at my neck, all that shit should be diamonds. Look at my teeth, when I slightly should be diamonds. Look at my bitch, green